The year was 1775, and England was embroiled in a bitter conflict across the Atlantic in the American colonies. In a quiet village near Dover, a young boy named Thomas Hargrove lived a simple life with his widowed mother. At just 14 years old, Thomas's world was one of innocence, but the echoes of war often reached their doorstep in the form of news, soldiers, and whispers of glory. Thomas idolized his late father, a soldier who had fallen years before in the 7 Years' War. His father had left behind only a tattered drum, a relic of his service. For Thomas, it wasn't just a drum. It was a symbol of bravery, duty, and honor. One chilly morning, a regiment of King George's army marched through the village, recruiting men for the war in the colonies. The commander, a stern but weary man named Major Whittaker, addressed the crowd, calling for volunteers. Enthralled by tales of heroism and driven by the desire to honor his father, Thomas stepped forward. The villagers murmured in shock. "He's just a boy," someone shouted. But Thomas stood tall. "I can play the drum, sir," he said, clutching his father's drum, "and I can march with your men." Major Whittaker frowned but saw something in the boy's eyes, a fire that even seasoned soldiers sometimes lacked. Reluctantly, he agreed, saying, "You may join as the drummer boy. But remember, lad, this isn't a game." As the regiment marched toward the coast to board ships bound for the colonies, Thomas quickly learned the harsh realities of military life. The cold nights, meager rations, and grueling marches tested his resolve. Yet he never faltered. His drum beats became the heartbeat of the regiment, setting the pace for weary soldiers and lifting their spirits during moments of despair. The journey across the Atlantic was treacherous. Storms battered the ship, and disease claimed several lives. Thomas found himself caring for the sick, offering whatever comfort he could. His courage and kindness earned him the respect of the soldiers, who began to see him not as a boy, but as one of their own. When they arrived in the colonies, the war was already raging. The regiment was sent to a contested area near Boston. One fateful day, they were ambushed by colonial forces in a dense forest. The sudden attack threw the regiment into chaos. Cannon fire roared, musket balls whizzed through the air, and men fell all around. Amid the chaos, Thomas's drumbeat rang out, steady and unyielding. He remembered Major Whittaker's words, "A drummer boy's rhythm is the voice of order in the noise of war." With each beat, he rallied the soldiers, guiding them to regroup and counter the ambush. His small frame darted through the battlefield, signaling commands with his drum, his courage inspiring even the most battle-hardened men. As the skirmish raged on, Thomas saw Major Whittaker wounded and pinned under a fallen tree. Without hesitation, he ran to the major's aid. Dodging bullets and cannon blasts, he managed to free the officer and drag him to safety. Despite his own injuries, Thomas never stopped beating his drum, leading the regiment to victory. When the battle ended, the soldiers gathered around Thomas, their faces etched with gratitude and admiration. Major Whittaker, now leaning on a makeshift crutch, placed a hand on Thomas's shoulder. "You're no mere drummer boy, Thomas," he said. "You're the heart of this regiment." Word of Thomas's bravery spread, reaching even King George himself. Though he was offered a medal and the chance to return home, Thomas chose to stay with his comrades, saying, "Courage isn't about medals, it's about standing firm when others falter."